On this lesson, I would like to discuss one example for the practice with the equation of a circle lesson. And the example that I do want to discuss is under task number 2, question B, which states find the center and radius of a circle and then graph the circle. So this is a typical equation of manipulating an equation so we can make it fit into the standard form of a circle. Where we call that the standard form for any circle, it's always in the form of x minus h squared plus b minus k squared equals radius squared. And remember that h and k are the center of the circle and r is the radius. So here we have an equation and we want to make it look like the standard form of a circle. Well, whenever we have such a task, the tool that we're going to be using is going to be by completing the square. So let's see. And again, the first step whenever we want to complete the square is isolate all the variables with the constants. We notice that here we have all the variables on the left hand side and all the constants on the right hand side. So that's good. So that step it's already been taken care of. Now the second step is to complete the square in terms of x and in terms of y. Notice that my terms are already in the correct position. I have all the x's first, and then I have all the y's later. But you might notice that there's something that is missing here compared to our previous example. And that is that if we want to complete the square, we're missing a term. We're missing the x term here. Well, we can think about this equation as follows. X squared plus 0x plus y squared plus 4y is equals to 32. Take a second and compare these two equations and convince yourself that they mean exactly the same. Here my coefficient is 0, 0 times x is 0, so that's what we didn't wrote it here. And now we have the same setup as we had previously in order for us to complete the square. So let's complete the square. By completing the square, again, I want to take a look at the b value for x, which in this case is 0. 0 divided by 2 is 0. We raise it to the second, which is a 0. So now I know that we need to add 0 on both sides. And now for y, again, take a look at the b for y, which is 4. And again, we got that number. We always divide it by 2, which in this case is going to be 2. And we always raise it to the second, and that's going to give me 4. So now that we have the following, we can just come to our problem and do the same. X squared plus 0x plus 0 plus y squared plus 4y plus 4 is equal to 32 plus the 0 from the x plus the 0 for the y. I'm sorry, plus the 4 for the y. And now, notice that this expression, the first three, we can factor them out. But since they're all zeros, we can just think about this as x minus 0 squared. Convince yourself that these two expressions are the same. X squared is equivalent to either x minus 0 squared or x plus 0 squared. They mean the same thing. Perhaps this was not even necessary, but I did want to write it out so you can see that we're doing exactly the same process. But we could have just seen as x squared. We could have just rewrote it as x minus 0 squared from the beginning. And notice that now we're starting to manipulate our equation. So if it's the standard form of a circle, now let's take care of b. And I just noticed here that it's not b minus k, it's y minus k. Again, let's take a look at these three terms. We got y squared plus for y plus 4. Notice that this expression is equivalent to y plus 2 times y plus 2, which is just equivalent of y plus 2 all to the second. So we come back to our problem, and instead of writing these three terms, I'm just going to write it as y plus 2 to the second. And then we take care of this. 34 plus 0, that's 34, plus 4, that's 36. And let's just rewrite it exactly in our standard form. So we're going to get x minus 0 square plus y minus negative 2 square equals 36. But we want to write it to the second exponent, so that becomes just 6 to the second. And notice that this time I'm writing certain numbers in blue, because now we can clearly see that this is my value of h and this is my value of k. And now we have all the correct information that is needed, because now we know that the circle that we want to graph, we know two things about a circle. I know that the center, it's located at 0, negative 2. And in addition of that, I know that the radius is equivalent to just 6. So now all we got to do is graph this. We know the center, we know the radius, so we have already answered this too. Now we want to graph our circle. So let's graph a circle. It has these two properties. So give me 1 second. I'll be back with the grid. So now we're back. Now let's plot our center, which we can see that the center is when x is 0 and y is negative 2. So here we're going to have our center for our circle. Since I know that the radius is 6, and if I move 6 units to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we're going to get a point in the circle. From the center, 6 units up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to get 6 units to the right from the center. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 units down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And here we have it, 6. And now we can clearly see our circle now. So let's draw our circle. That's an okay circle. Not a circle perfectly, but hopefully you do get the idea. But the main idea here is that anytime we do have an equation and we want to come up with the standard form of our circle, we got to use completing the square. And if there's a term that is missing, which in this case it was x, we can just substitute with a 0. But another way of saying is that x squared, we could have just written automatically as just x minus 0 squared. And then we just really needed to just complete the square for the y only.